In this video, I'm walking you through how to do frog arm glides. So for frog arm glides, we're going to come to a frog position. If you don't know the ins and outs of frog position, then please do watch my video on frog before you try the arm glide sort of upgrade, shall we say. So we've always got kind of a base position that we're doing our exercise from, but it's really important that we master the base position before we start layering on other elements to it, because if you're not mastering the base position, then you're not going to be doing the layers very well. So if you haven't done frog before, please do frog, get an idea of that, practice that for a few days or a few weeks, and then when you think that you're kind of nailing that frog, then you can come and try and do the frog arm glides position. I'm not going to walk you through frog in very much detail, so please do watch that video first. What I will be walking you through in detail is the arm glides component of it. So we are doing our frog, and we're bringing the soles of our feet together and the knees are hanging out wide. And if you watch the frog video, you will see that there are other things that you need to learn in terms of what you should be feeling as you do frog, squeezing your feet together, what your pelvis is doing, how far away from your bottom your feet should be, etc., etc. So watch that video and then you can try and do this one afterwards. We're going to bring our hands to a cactus position like this. So we're trying to keep the hands really active and spread. So I call this active starfish. I want to imagine that your hands are starfish clinging onto rocks in a turbulent sea. So the elbows come to this cactus position, the backs of the forearms are on the floor. Most importantly, your wrists are on the floor, okay? So I'm going to walk you through that in a second. The hands spread super wide, and you're trying to kind of push down gently, not aggressively hard, but push down into the floor using your upper arms, your shoulder blades, your forearms, your hands and your fingers. So if you only push down with your hands, you might then notice that your elbow lifts up. And if you only push down with your shoulders, you might notice that your hand kind of lifts up. We're trying to keep an even pushing backwards down onto the floor so that we are waking up the entire posterior chain of the arm here. So it's like the whole back of the arm and shoulder blade should be working. This is a really difficult exercise, so do not underestimate. If you find this hard, most people find this really hard, but you're also trying not to flare your rib cage. So as you do this pushing down with the arms, you might notice that you do this, boop, and you pop your rib cage up and the bottom ribs kind of flare up away from the floor. If that's what's going on, don't do this exercise. There are a million other shoulder exercises that you can do that are a bit easier, and you'll get more from them if you can focus on like nailing and mastering them than you will do trying to do this exercise if your rib cage is really popped up. Because if the rib cage is popped up, you're not moving your shoulder blades, you're compensating through your mid to lower back. So you're trying to keep the lower rib cage on the floor as you put the arms in the cactus position, and lots of people really struggle with this. The hands spread wide, and this is the bit that I was going to come to next. Keep the back of the wrist on the hand as we do the rest of the exercise. So most people, when they do this, they'll notice that their wrist wants to, what I call, pyramid up off the floor. And the exercise looks like this. Oh, my mat's a bit annoying actually. The exercise looks like this, where we're sort of moving the hand along the floor like so, but we're only doing this exercise if our wrists can stay grounded throughout. So if you're doing this, this is not the exercise for you because you're not opening up the shoulder. Like I said with the rib cage poppers, there's a million other things that you can do, and that's more beneficial than just doing this exercise but the wrists being up off the floor. If you can keep the wrists down, then it might be difficult, but you're just going to move within a tiny range of movement. So if you're finding it really hard but you can do it, then just move through this tiny range of movement. You might not be able to move as far as I can. I'm just going to fold my mat in half so that it doesn't get in the way of the movement of my arms. So I'm coming back down here, and we are starting off in this cactus position. Hands are super wide, the fingers are spread, and I'm pushing down through the fingers, palms, wrists, forearms, upper arms, and shoulders, trying not to flare my ribs. And then driving the movement from the scapula, the shoulder blades themselves, I'm rolling my arms up to sort of touch behind my head, keeping the wrists on the floor. I'm not flaring my rib cage. Whole back of the arm stays actively pushing down on the floor. And then I use the muscles kind of below my shoulder blades to pull my elbows as close to my torso as I can. And my mat is now, I've not done a very good job of setting myself up here. I'm fully getting rid of the mat, so maybe you guys might need to do the same as well, because it's definitely getting in the way. So, cactus, fingers spread wide, push down into floor, drawing hands behind you so that they touch if you have that range of movement, and then drawing the elbows as close down to the torso as you can if you have the range of movement without the pyramiding happening through the wrists. So you might only be able to move through this tiny range of movement without the pyramids jumping up, the wrists jumping up, and that is more beneficial for you to keep working through this little range of movement than it would be for you to be doing this with the wrists up off the floor. Likewise with the ribs. If you're trying to move too far and your ribs are kind of thrusting backwards and forwards, then you're moving beyond your capabilities. So dial the movement down a bit, focus on the cues, or do other shoulder exercises to help warm things up a little bit more, because this is probably amongst the most difficult shoulder exercises that we do. So I'm going to move you through 15 repetitions here. Fingers spread wide, hands are active. We push down into the floor with the wrists, the forearms, the upper arms, and the shoulder blades, keeping that downward pressure, trying to keep the rib cage down. I was about to pop mine up. Not lifting up wrists, pushing down on the floor, kind of gently as we sweep the shoulder blades up into upwards rotation, and then using the muscles sort of in between the shoulder blades and below the shoulder blades to pull the elbows into the side. 1, wrists stay on floor. 2, 3, 4. Don't skimp on this downward pull. So I find that lots of people don't quite go as far as they can as they draw the elbows to the torso, but drawing the elbows to the torso, I think, is probably the hardest bit of the movement. So don't just be stuck up here like this. Really make sure that you're trying to get those elbows down, but keep the rib cage down at the same time. I think we're on about 5, 6, 7, steady, calm breathing as ever, 8. If you've lost the breath, you've lost the movement, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that is frog arm glides.